Hi, my name is Rebecca Teglas. I'm the head of the Children's Department at the Larchmont Public Library, and I'm here to talk to you fifth graders about the books that Linnea and I, who's the other children's librarian, think are the best books of 2020. During this time of year, we usually do something. We go into the classrooms and we do something we call the Winter Blues Book Tour. This year we can't go into your classroom, but we wanted to definitely fill you in on what we think is the best. And hopefully you guys find something great to read and what I'm going to talk about. What I'm telling you about is not the complete list of the books that we think are the best. So you'll have to go onto either your Google Classroom or go on our website and find our lists so you can put some holds on some of these great books. Also, to let you know, if you don't have a card, you can get a temporary card online. You can go to our website, which is larchmontlibrary.org, and it's right there on the front page. You just click on the form to fill out. So now let's get started. I'm going to tell you about some of the great fiction books first, then we'll talk about some graphic novels, and then some nonfiction books. The first book I want to tell you about is my favorite of last year, called The Elephant's Girl by Celesta Rimington. And I just love this book. I stayed up until way too late until I finished it. So much action, great characters in it. Any case, the main character is someone named Lexington Willow. And Lexington has a very close connection with the elephant on the cover of the book, as you can tell, and she should, because when she was 2, there was a tornado, and she got stuck inside the tornado and landed in the elephant's habitat at the zoo, which is a very dangerous place for a little girl to be. It was the middle of the night. So this elephant keeps her warm and takes care of her through the night, and the next day, she's only 2, she doesn't remember anything about her past. So she ends up, the story takes place about 10 years later when she's 12 years old, and she has a foster dad who lives at the zoo, and he's been taking care of her all those years. She still has no memory of who her family is. Anyway, at age 12, they decide that she's old enough to do something she's always wanted to do, which is learn to train the elephants. So during her first training session, she gets a telepathic message from this elephant, and it's telling her to go to the woods, which launches off a whole can of worms. There's a ghost, there's a treasure hunt, and there's the possibility of her finally finding out who her family is, her birth family. So if you like those kinds of stories and stories with a great character and a lot of action, you might really like this book. I highly recommend it. Now I'm going to talk about 2 survival stories. The first one is 96 Miles by J.L. Epstein. And if you like a really good survival story, this one is for you. I've never heard a story start out quite like this. This was a little kind of crazy, but the story actually starts off with one of the main characters drinking out of the toilet bowl. Don't worry, he boiled the water first. But they had no way to get water, so that's what they had to do. So he had no choice. So John and his brother Stuart, they're in their home, and there's a power outage that has lasted for weeks with no end in sight. And of course, it just happens that their father went out of town during that time. Did I mention they're in the middle of nowhere in the desert? That's why you see them walking on the highway. They have to walk 96 miles to get to the closest neighbor so that they can get some help. And during the power outage, by the way, some men came in and stole all their food and their generator. And the story's about who they meet along the way and human nature in the time of crisis and the race against the clock to survive. Now here's our other survival story, Echo Mountain, but it also has a historical twist. So if you like historical fiction, this one might be for you. So it's by Lauren Wolk, who is an acclaimed author. She is known for her writing of nature and just beautiful writing. And she's an award-winning author. Anyway, it happens during the Great Depression, and Ellie and her family have lost everything, including their home in town. So they have to move into the middle of the woods with little more than the clothes that they have on their back. Now, secretly, Ellie kind of likes it. She's finding that she really loves being in nature. She likes the hunting that she's doing with her father, and she likes having to do all the things that they have to do to survive. They do have a place to live, and they have to do a lot to keep that place up and running. And her brother does tag along. She also has a mother and a sister who are not too excited about living in the middle of the woods. They would much rather have their life back in the city. Now, what happens is their father ends up in a coma, and Ellie is the only one who knows what to do to take care of the family. So it's about that pressure and the lengths that she will go to save her dad. and it means going to a place that she's absolutely forbidden to go to. So if you like historical fiction and you like survival stories, I think this one is a great read. The next book I'm going to talk to you about is called Super Puzzle-tastic Mysteries, and it's a totally fun way to read. It's very unique. I've never seen a book like this before. You read a chapter. It's short stories, so you read one of the stories and then you turn to the end of the book and see if you can solve the mysteries. You're given all the clues. This book is edited by Chris Grabenstein, who is famous for the Mr. Limoncello's Library series, and it also has really good authors in it. Authors like Stuart Gibbs, who wrote the Fun Jungle series and also the Spy School series. So really good authors are writing these different short stories. So in any case, I'll give you an idea of what one of them is about. It begins with a giant fart, like giant, 40-foot fart. By fart, it's written in the snow outside of the school. So one of the kids actually went out there and wrote the word fart with his feet in the snow, or her feet in the snow. And the principal thinks he knows who did it. He's pretty sure he's got a usual suspect in mind, and Riley knows his friend didn't do it. So he is out to prove that the friend didn't do it, and he has one day to make that proof. So can you solve the mystery given the clues and turn to the end of the book and find out if you're right? That's what this book's about. Now it's time for two scary stories. This one I'm not going to actually show you the cover. If you don't like scary stories, you should not listen to this. You can fast forward or just close your ears. Anyway, so I'm not showing you the cover because the cover is actually scarier than the book. It has a creepy puppet on it, and who wants to look at creepy puppets if you don't like scary books? But if you do like scary books, you might want to hear about this one. So it's called The Puppet's Playback and Other Chilling Tales, and it's by Mary Downing Hahn, who is kind of known for her writing of scary stories. It's a book of short stories, so again, just like the last one, it's pretty easy to put it down and pick it back up when you feel like it. So I really enjoyed this because I like short stories and I also really like scary books. And this is a collection of 10 short stories, including one about a hand puppet that is on the cover of the book, and it's as much a part of your body as your actual hand is. And another one is a vampire that just won't quit until he finds company. And a spooky girl in a graveyard who is looking for a friend for life. So if you like scary books, this one might be for you. Now this book is called Scritch Scratch, and I think it's a little scarier than the other book that I told you about before by Mary Downing Hahn. This one is written by Lindsay Curry, and it's about Claire, who really likes science. She's a girl and she really likes science, and she's really embarrassed that her dad has a ghost tour bus company in Chicago. So one night she's kind of forced to be on the bus with him, and she notices this sad looking boy in the back who doesn't say much, and turns out that he's a ghost and he follows her home, and she has to use the scientific method to discover the mystery of the ghost boy and also figure out what's true and what's not. So there's other background stories going on too, like the changing relationship with her best friend and her relationship with her brother. So again, if you like scary stories and also stories about friendship, this one might be for you. Now this is a book that is just pure fun. It's called The Smartest Kid in the Universe. It's by Chris Grabenstein. He was the editor of that short story book I was telling you about, also the author of the Mr. Limoncello's Library series. And it's just so much fun to read. The boy in this book, Jake, he has no interest in school. He wants to do the minimum to get by. All he wants to do is have fun. He's a pretty popular kid and has a lot of friends, and he wants to play video games and have fun. One day he goes into his mother's office, and there was a convention that day, and he eats jelly beans. By the way, you should not eat anything that you don't know where it came from, because this could happen to you. So he eats the jelly beans and he becomes so super smart, so like off the charts smart. Can answer tons of trivia questions, and all of a sudden he knows so much. So it comes to the attention of some not so nice people, and it's about how he navigates that and what happens. So if you like fun stories, I highly recommend this one. This is another realistic fiction book by Kate Messner called Chirp. I really like Kate Messner and all of her writing, but this one I felt was particularly good. And it's actually a summer story, so not really too much winter bluesy, but just so much fun to read. It's about a girl whose name is Mia, and she's moving to a new place, and she does not want to do gymnastics because of something terrible that happened to her when she was doing gymnastics. And her mother insists that she has to do some summer camps. So she decides to do Ninja Warrior Camp, which is kind of a little close to gymnastics, not too far off. And she decides to do a camp where she is going to learn how to be an entrepreneur. She takes on the cause of her grandmother's business, which is trying to get people to eat crickets. Sounds crazy, I know, but crickets have a lot of protein in them and you can make them taste good. Meanwhile, there's somebody who's trying to sabotage the cricket business, someone who wants to buy it, but ends up wanting to buy it from her, but it's about how Mia and her friends, she makes some new friends, really good friends in her entrepreneurial camp, and it's about how they take on the cause of the crickets and how she ends up getting some advice as to what she can do for her grandmother and how they take down the bad guys. So it's a really fun book, and how she learns to have the courage to leap off this cliff that we're looking at in the cover of the book. So I highly recommend it if you like realistic fiction. Now I'm going to tell you about a graphic novel called Class Act. It's by Jerry Craft. It came out this year. Great realistic fiction graphic novel. And it's a companion to this book called New Kid, also by Jerry Craft, written earlier. This one is the story of Jordan and him attending Riverdale Academy Day School for the first time and trying to fit in and being one of the only people of color in his entire grade. Now, this one is told from the point of view of his friend Drew. So Jordan, Drew, and Liam are all friends. But then one day, Drew goes over to Liam's house and he realizes he has a ton of money. A ton. He's got a mansion, cars, anything that anybody could want. And Drew doesn't have all that. And he wonders if they can ever really truly be friends. Do they come from two totally different worlds? And even Jordan is having a hard time keeping their friendship all together. So it's the story of that, and it's the story of him coming in to accept himself. It's also the story, also going on the sidelines. There's a girl who just keeps baking for Drew all the time, and it's very obvious that she's got a crush on him. So that's going on too. And it's a really great book if you like realistic fiction graphic novels. So I recommend this one. Now, this is another graphic novel nonfiction series that came out this year. It's from the series called Big Ideas That Change the World. This one happens to be Machines That Think. The thing that is good about this series is it gives you a lot of facts and it tells you about life-changing inventions, but it's also really funny. So if you like funny graphic novels and also like nonfiction, this series might be a good one for you to try. So this book is Act by Kayla Miller. This is the third in the Click series, and if you're a fan of Raina Telgemeier, you probably are going to like this book. And it's about a girl who gets upset when her class trip can't be attended. There's a policy in the school that means that everybody in the class trip can't attend, and that policy is that you have to pay for it, and not everybody can afford that. So she decides that she is going to act on that. And there is an election for student council, and she's going to run for it. And she's going to try to make a difference to try to get the kids that can't afford to do it to be able to do it. Meanwhile, there's a little friendship drama going on. Her friend is starting to hang out a little more with one of their guy friends, and she's starting to feel like the third wheel. So if you like stories about friendship, and also the art in this is really fabulous. So if you like good art and stories about friendship and stories about making a change, this one will be for you. This is a great graphic novel about changing relationships between sisters. It's called Twins, and the author's name is Varian Johnson and Shannon Wright. So there are two authors to this book. And as you can tell by the cover, they are starting to grow apart. They're in 6th grade. They've always been best friends, but one of them seems to have changed a little bit. She's starting to grow up faster than the other one. And it's about their changing friendship and their changing relationship and how sisters are always forever. So if you like books like that, this one's for you. Now on to some nonfiction books. So this one is for nonfiction, true nonfiction lovers, because it is a pretty thick book, but it's a great story. It won all sorts of awards. It won a Newbery Honor, which is one of the highest awards you can get from the library world. It's called All 13, The Incredible Cave Rescue of the Thai Boys Soccer Team. And it's the story about some boys who are very close. Not only do they play soccer together, they also travel and do other sorts of exercise together. The coach makes it a point that they exercise outside of their usual soccer routine. So they decide they're going to ride their bikes with the coach to a cave and do an hour of exploring. But floodwaters rush in and they end up trapped there for 17 days. And this story made national news. I remember when it happened. It is the story about how they got them out, and it's really compelling if you like nonfiction. Another great book is from the History Smashers series. This one is called The Mayflower. It's by Kate Messner. This series basically takes history and what we know of it and says, hey, that's really not true. So if you like those kinds of books, this one might be for you. Another couple of books that came out this year, of course, that are always fun to read are the world record books. So we have the Scholastic 2021 World Records, and we also have the Year in Sports for 2021 World Records. You can put these on hold at the library if you like things like that. And another great maker book is this book called Cardboard Box Engineering. It gives you projects, and there's some really fun ones like the 3-wing boomerang that you can make out of a cardboard box. So it's basically all those Amazon boxes that we're getting, we can be putting to better use than putting them in the recycling. So this is Cardboard Box Engineering by Jonathan Adolph. So this is not all the great books that we have on the list that we have posted online for you guys. It's just some of them. This was just a taste. So you can put any of these books on hold at the library, and we have curbside pickup right now. Hopefully one day we'll get back to opening up again, but in the meantime, you can put them on hold using your library card. If you want to, you can apply for a temporary card if you don't have one yet. So you can do that on our website too. Anyway, miss you guys. Wish I could be in person, and I look forward to the time that we can be together.